Hello everyone, and surprise! I bet you wasn't expecting to see a video pop up on my channel today, was you? I am currently sunning myself in Tenerife and having, hopefully, a nice time. But I thought while I was away, I'd get a couple of videos done for you. And for this one, we're doing the Winter 2023-24 second preamble. So we did the first, I'm so sorry, but we did the first Winter preamble in June. Second preamble now, and the third and final preamble will be in August, all beginning to build up the appetite, whet the appetite a little bit ahead of the true onset of winter updates, which of course will be in September. I think first one will be Sunday the 3rd of September, I think. So, yes, I'm going to get on with your second Winter 23-24 preamble in a second. And just to say, I am currently on holiday, hopefully having a nice time in the Canary Islands, so there's no sort of 6M forecast, 10 to 14 days. Everything will get back on track on Wednesday, the 19th of July. That is the day Gav returns from his holiday travels. Thank you so much to, but please like, share, subscribe on the videos. And thank you so much to Richard for our lovely Winter 2023-24 preamble gift. Thank you so much, Rich, for our incredible and amazing winter preamble gift. I love it. So frosty and I don't know, do you? Right, well, let's crack on then, shall we, with the second preamble. Let's have a look. So you're going to be looking at June data for this one in terms of CT, central temperature, and also in the weather precipitation. Thank you so much to Shrine Brewing for sorting out all of these years. They're the same years we used for the, I think it was the 4th autumn update. So they're the same years, you know, but instead of autumn, we're just extending out into the winter. Right, okay, so thanks to Richard and Shrine, hashtag Team Gav. Okay, let's have a look then. So, June came in with a central temperature of 17.0, which is actually the warmest June on record in the last 50 years. Anyway, there are hotter Junes going back into the 1800s where we actually get 18 Celsius CT Junes. But for like 20th century and for the last 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, June 2023 just pips 1976. So we're going to be looking at winters following the top 10 warmest Junes, very straightforwardly. So starting off with 1992 at number 10. So the 10th warmest June for the CT was indeed 1992. The winter of 92-93 was an anticyclonic high pressure dominated winter with high pressure over the country and low pressure away to the north, and a jet stream going up there as well. So that was a very dry and quiet winter. There were some stormy episodes early January 93 most notably, but overall quite a dry, quiet and relatively mild winter. There was some very harsh frost in the Christmas week, Christmas to New Year of 1992 was very frosty and cold from, like, I mean, latitude high, not from easterly winds and whatnot. So two sort of dry anticyclonic winters in the early 90s, 91, 92, and then again repeated really in 92, 93. So they weren't the most memorable winters we've ever had. Right, okay, let's go on to number 9. At number 9, the 9th warmest June is 2006. The winter of 2006-2007 following that June has high pressure across much of Europe. Low pressure is away to the north. This is a very mild winter we have in 2006-07. There is a potent cold snap in February, very briefly, for 2007 with some easterly winds, but otherwise that is a mild 2000s winter. At number 8, we've got 2005. So the winter of 05-06 looks like this. You would think that's a very cold winter, wouldn't you? With high pressure sort of blocking away towards Svalbard, maybe, heading to northwestern Russia, low pressure is down here, and you look about and think we're bringing in lots of easterly and northeasterly winds. I mean, a real old freeze. I mean, it was a particularly cold winter. It did get cold in the second half of February, so there was about a month of cold weather from mid-February to mid-March. A few cold snaps in between, but for the analog, which does look really, I always think that looks really impressive, you know, for the analog, actually not a particularly cold winter. At number 7, we've got 2003, the 7th warmest June for CT was indeed 2003. Winter of 03-04 looks like that. It's another mildish sort of 2000s winter, really early to mid 2000s winter. There's a bit of high pressure in the Atlantic. Few cold snaps coming and going again. There's quite a cold spell that sets up in mid to late February of 2004. Early February 04 is very mild though. And January, again, 1 or 2 cold snaps come and go. But overall, it's a relatively mild winter that we have for 03-04. Then go to number 6. At number 6, in terms of the top 10 warmest Junes, it's 2017. The winter of 2017-18 is looking like this. So we've got low pressure over and to the east, and we get some higher pressure out in the Atlantic, and quite a bit of high pressure up here. That's the Siberian high there, of course, which eventually does show its hand. We have to wait until the end of February of 2018, but then we get the beastly easterlies. Beast from the east brings a big freeze at the end of February 2018 and into early March as well. Before that, there's cold snaps on and off. So December 2017 has some snow in Midlands, and January 2018 also has a few cold snaps as well, particularly so for northern areas. Overall, it is one of the cooler winters that we've had in the past 10 years. At number 5, we've got 2018. So the 5th warmest June was 2018. And winter of 2018-19 is a dry anticyclonic winter with high pressure throughout the west of Europe and up into the North Atlantic Ocean as well, by the way. So that has very, very mild weather in late February. I'm sure you remember it. There's like a late February heat wave there that gets the temperature into the 20s Celsius. Absolutely remarkable. Before that, we do have a chillier spell in January, but overall the winter of 2018-2019 is a relatively mild one. At number 4, we've got 1960. The 4th warmest June of CT is indeed 1960. And the winter of 1960-1961 is generally just mild and wet, I think. Lots of low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic in this winter. So, of course, the 1960s is a very cold decade. But as you would expect, weather being perverse and having a laugh, actually the first proper full winter of that decade, 60-61, is generally quite a mild winter. And then at number 3, we've got 1951. So the 5th warmest June, the 3rd, I should say, warmest June is at 1950. The winter of 50-51 is very unsettled, deep low pressure through the west of Europe. You look around and think it's very mild winter. Actually, it does get milder later, but it does have a really cold December in 1950. Not quite to December to remember levels, not 2010 levels, but kind of on a par with 1981, really. So yeah, very cold and wintry December, and then, of course, as often happens when you get a very cold December and quite a lot of snow, then you will find that the middle and latter part of winter tends to get milder. The cold sort of tends to fade out around Christmas and New Year, and then the rest of the winter turns quite a bit milder, and that's the classic example in 1950, 1951. At number 2, we've got 1971. The 2nd warmest June was 1971. And so was 1970, I should say. Let's change that over. It's a typo. Yes, so it's 1970. 2nd warmest June for CT of 1970. The winter of 1970-1971 looks like this. Again, this is one of those that you would think is a cold winter, really, with high pressure in the North Atlantic and towards Scandinavia, low pressure jet stream down across southern Europe, winds you will think coming in from the east. We does have some cold weather in December of 1970. It has a white Christmas, actually, with easterly winds bringing snow in from the east. However, the rest of the winter is generally very mild. And then at number 1, of course, now superseded by 2023, but before then, at number 1, it's 1976, the warmest June for the city was 1976, and this winter 1976-77 has lots of high pressure within the northern latitudes. Low pressure tends to be pushed southwards, winds in from the east. This is a very front-loaded winter, so we get really quite a cold December, and January is pretty cold as well. So there is quite a cold weather during the winter of 76, 77. But then it gets milder later on. So February 77 is actually very mild. And then the cold air really digs in across eastern parts of America. So we start off with cold air into northern Europe. But as the winter progresses, the cold air very much goes to the northern and eastern part of America, where it becomes brutally cold, actually. Extremely cold. One of their coldest winters on record is 1976-77 in eastern parts of America. Absolutely freezing cold, and very, very snowy as well for that particular winter. So as we get milder in Western Europe, Eastern America, it gets very extremely cold. Okay, let's put all of that together then. So this is how all December's combined are looking, following the top 10 warmest Junes. And we can see that we have high pressure in the Atlantic going up towards Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure is across western some parts of Europe. You will look at and think there's cold snap potential, definitely, with those December's winds could frequently be in from an east or northeasterly direction there. All January's combined, following the top 10 warmest Junes, look like that. Very unsettled with low pressure across the north and the west of Europe. High pressure out of the Atlantic, just a little bit more Atlantic based, so probably not as much cold snap potential in the Januaries as we see in the Decembers, but an unsettled and maybe at times quite chilly signal. And then all February's combined, following the top 10 warmest Junes, go a lot drier, much more anticyclonic, and the high pressure tends to be centred between Iceland and Scandinavia there, which could often bring the wind in from the east. So kind of winter where winter's favoured here, where we have cold potentially in December, milder, wetter in the heart of the winter in January, and then cold potentially coming back later on in the winter in February as we get toward the back end of it. And this, finally, for this set of analogues, is how all winters combined are looking from the top 10 warmest Decembers. But it's cold snap potential with these winters, definitely. High pressure within the northern latitudes, low pressure across the west of Europe. You will think winds often coming in from an east or a northeasterly direction. So definite cold snap potential with a lot of those winters following the top 10 warmest Junes. Right, okay, well, we're going to crack on. That's the first set of analogues done, but we're not going to stop. We're going to go straight on to the second set, which we're looking at England and Wales precipitation. So let's do that then, shall we? Right, so I'm so sorry. This is how June's England and Wales precipitation came out for June 2023, and it came out with 46.5 millimetres, an anomaly of 66% of average, meaning that it was a significantly drier than average June. What precipitation occurred tended to be around the middle part of the month there. So, very simply, now we're going to look at winters following Junes with an England and Wales precipitation of 40 to 50 millimetres, hopefully placing June 2023 slap bang in the middle of that range. So, sorry, everybody. And look, once again, we've got 1950, 1951 back. It was in the first set. It's now back for the second set. So again, we get the below average heights across the west of Europe and the above average heights in the Atlantic. So I've already explained, has a very cold and wintry December in 1950, and then, as often happens after a cold and wintry December, it gets milder and wetter through the latter part of the winter. But next winter, following a June England precipitation range of 40 to 50 millimetres, is the winter of 1959, 1960. So June 1959 has that England Wales precipitation range 40 to 50 millimetres. The winter of 1959-60 is a wet winter, mild and wet, low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic. Those are blocking signal, but it's more owed toward the Canadian side of Greenland. So we just bring in the westerlies from off the Atlantic and have a relatively mild and wet winter there for 1959-1960, ending a very dry run that happens through most of 1959, extended summer, starting with spring, going on into the autumn with many, many months of below average rainfall. It all starts to make up in the winter of 59-60. Our next winter, following an England-Wales precipitation range in June of 40 to 50 millimetres, is winter of 1967-1968. This one with a mid-Atlantic ridge going up towards Greenland and a trough of low pressure away to our east. Winds often coming in from the north, especially in January and February, which both months have some potent northerly blasts and cold snaps coming and going with snow at times. December 67 is a little bit forgettable, generally quite mild and wet, but January and February of 68 both have some quite potent cold outbreaks. This one comes back to, it's 1970-1971. We spoke about it in the first set. So this one has a white Christmas in 1970 with easterly winds. However, the rest of the winter is generally mild and forgettable. And then we've got 1980-1981. It's a genuinely cold winter that we have showing up here, with high pressure around Greenland, low pressure to the south. This has a very cold December as well. Could there be a connection between hot, dry Junes and cold Decembers? Let me know in the comments what you think about that possibility, everyone. But this one has a very, very cold December. Not quite as severe as December to remember in 2010, but it does have a cold December, definitely. And yeah, the cold comes back in January though. So as I say, generally when you have it very cold in December, it'll be cold up to Christmas and New Year, and then it fades out and it never comes back. However, this winter did actually bring the cold back. The cold was so entrenched over Scandinavia and so severe that in January, the second week of January of 1982, we have another really big freeze up and blizzards and lots of snow and whatnot as well. It does eventually follow the course that you expect. After a very cold December, we have a mild February in 1982. But the reason it's remembered as a genuinely cold winter is that both December and January have a lot of cold weather, and January is severely cold and very, very snowy for a while in the second week of the month. The next winter, following a June, England Wales precipitation rate. Good this, isn't it? Good preamble. I hope you're enjoying it, everyone. Please smash that like button if you are. The next winter, following an England Wales precipitation range in June of 40 to 50 millimetres, is 1984-85. This one also is a very cold winter with high pressure to the north and northeast of the country. Doesn't look that far that from the 0506 analogue, does it? But unlike 0506, this one really does tap into the cold air and has a very cold January, almost sub-zero CT, not quite, and also has quite a cold February as well. December 84 is quite mild up until the very last days of it. And then it gets cold. But when it gets cold around the new year of 1984, 1985, when the cold starts, it's really cold then through most of the rest of the winter. We've got another cold winter here. It's 86, 87. Wow. With high pressure again within northern latitudes, low pressure. Remember, we're just having fun with this. We're just having fun with these preambles. Proper winter updates get going in September, but we like to have a little bit of fun with them first of all. So I'm a little bit giddy. Anyway, 86, 87, very mild December, but in early January the cold gets going and it becomes severely cold, probably the coldest single spell of weather since the winter of 1714, actually, in terms of the severity of the cold temperatures that we get during that freeze up in the middle of January 1987. February nowhere near as cold, but does have a few cold snaps, and it also gets very cold in March of 1987 as well, so it is a long winter. This one's a little bit of a stinker though for anyone who likes cold weather. This is 88, 89. This is the complete reverse of those winters we've just been talking about. This one's one of the mildest winters on record. Lots of low pressure up to the north, high pressure from the Azores reaching into Western Europe. Winds coming up from the southwest. It's relatively dry winter in 88, 89, but exceptionally mild, especially so in January and also February too. Then we got the winter of 2000, 2001. It's a bit of a near miss winter, but it is a genuinely cold one for Scotland actually. They get quite a lot of snow during winter 2000, 2001. Where I am in Northampton, anywhere further south, was one of those winters that had a lot of potential, but never quite got going. But it does have some cold weather in all of the winter months, December 2000 and also January and February of 2001, and indeed March 2001 as well. All of the months do have some cold snaps and some snow, even down southern England, even if it's not a huge amount. We've got 2001, 2002 showing up next. This one is one of those how long, so it doesn't tell you a great deal about the winter. December 2001 is quite cold. January 2002 starts very cold, frosty, and then gets milder. And then February 2002 is a very mild month and also really wet as well. We've got 2010. Look at this, a December to remember. Again, that idea, hot, dry Junes and cold cold Decembers. Is there a connection? Let me know what you think in the comments, everyone. But here's 2000, 2001 showing up after a June England Wales precipitation range of 40 to 50 millimeters, and you can see what's going on this winter, blocking around Greenland, low pressure to our south and southeast, winds in from the northeast. Remember, exceptionally cold, severely cold, brutally cold in December of 2010. It is the December to remember because it was the coldest December for CT since 1890. Just 0.2 of a degree would have meant that December 2010 was the coldest in the entire CT index back to 1659. If that cold snap had gone on a couple of days longer, let's say it had started a couple of days later in November and it had gone on a couple of days longer in December, gone up to New Year, then we would have done it. We would have had our coldest December since records began for the CET in 1659. Imagine how historic that was. But as it is, it's the coldest December since 1890. It is the December to remember, brutal cold. But once the cold goes around Christmas and New Year, it doesn't really come back. And actually has a very mild February in 2011. And then finally, we've got 2014, 2015. So this was just like an average sort of winter, really low pressure around Greenland, Iceland, high pressure in the Atlantic, winds coming in from a westerly direction. So there's a few cold snaps. It's one of those winters that's a little bit forgettable. Right, let's put it all together then. So this is how all Decembers combined are looking following a June England Wales precipitation range of 40 to 50 millimeters. And we've got high pressure blocking in the Atlantic and going up towards Greenland, low pressure is across much of Europe. Winds in from the east and the northeast with a lot of these Decembers. There is cold snap potential. Hardly surprised. 1950. We've got 1981 and we've got 2010 in the mix. So it's not really a surprise that it's come out like that with definite cold snap potential for December. All January's combined also look very interesting from a cold perspective. High pressure blocking around Iceland and going up to Greenland. Low pressure, change of colour, low pressure coming in off Atlantic to our south and east. Again, winds regularly coming in from a east or northeasterly direction. There definite cold potential for the Januaries too. All February's combined, however, lose the cold potential. So we find that we get low pressure just developing in the Atlantic. There will be years that deviate from this, of course, but on average we get low pressure in the Atlantic, bring milder but also wetter conditions for the Februaries. And then lastly, all winters combined. So looking front-loaded, definite front-loaded winter here with this second preamble. Both sets, really, but particularly this final set. And finally, all winters combined, following a June England Wales precipitation range of 40 to 50 millimetres. Looks like that. So we do see blocking around Greenland and in the North Atlantic. Low pressure is to our south and east. Winds are often coming in from an east or a northeasterly direction, and you can clearly see that there is cold potential with those winters following June England Wales precipitation range of 40, 50 millimetres. But that is particularly front-loaded cold potential rather than, you know, in the back end of the winter. It looks like the back ends tend to get milder, but the front ends often favour cold weather. We'll see. It's all just for fun, just a laugh, really. But that's it anyway. That is your second winter 2023-24 preamble from GavsWeatherVids. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. I'm still enjoying my holiday, hopefully, having a good time in the Canaries, soaking up the atmosphere. I won't be pitching up my tent because I'm in a nice hotel. I don't do tents. But I will hopefully, so I won't be pitching up a tent, but I will be soaking up the atmosphere, hopefully. Soaking up something, anyway. The videos are going to be back to normal on Wednesday. Well, not back to normal, because I come back that day, but the content will all start coming back from Wednesday, 19th of July. You have a fantastic next few days, and I shall see you all very, very soon for this second winter 2023-24 preamble. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Richard and Ryan for all the help on video, by the way. And that's it. I'm going to go and carry on soaking up the sun. Bye for now.